guys, we're back. And this time, I have an announcement. Drum roll, please. New series! We are in a new series. I'm super hyped, super excited. It's gonna be really challenging, really encouraging, mainly challenging, and I'm pumped for it, honestly. So the title of the series, as you can see, is Talk Is. Putting our words into action. Putting our words into action. So many of you guys know this, but I remember back in the day, I remember going to the playground, Crossman Elementary, y'all. I remember going, hype for kickball, soccer, whatever the case may be. And there would always be that one kid there who would just be talking mad smack before the game even starts. I'm like, just wait till we start and leave. He'll be like, hey Dan, I'm like, yes. He's like, I'm gonna get a home run this time. I'm like, okay. And he never got one. But he was like, I'm gonna get one this time. I'm better than all y'all. Like, okay. They're like, I'm gonna skip you. I'm like, go ahead, go. Yeah. Then he would go, and then he would kick it, and he would get out. And I'm like, kickball's not your gift. But we all know that person who would talk all the time and then not back it up. And I think sometimes we do that as Christians too. We do that, like we claim to be a Christian, but we don't actually walk in the way that God's calling us to walk. We claim to believe in something, but don't actually live our lives like it's true. Because how many of you guys know that true faith will lead to action? True faith will lead to action. So throughout this series, we're gonna study the book of James. The book of James is a great book, really challenging book. James is brother of Jesus, and when he's writing this, he's going in. Like, it's really challenging. Probably gonna slap you in the face a couple times, like pop. It's gonna be crazy. I'm like, every time I read it, I take something away from it. It really challenges me. And the theme verse is from James 2:14, and it says, what good is it, dear brothers and sisters, if you say you have faith, but don't show it by your actions? Can that kind of faith save anyone? So James is saying something that's kind of like, at first when you read it, you get a little bit confused because of what's been said in the Bible before, but when you pair the two together, you get a complete picture of what God actually means. So, throughout the Bible, it's shown that you are saved by your faith, meaning what you believe in is actually what saves you. It's not based on your effort. It's not based on how hard you try. It's not our thing of like working our way up to God. It's that God came down to us to save us. It's beautiful, and that's the good news of the gospel. You are saved by your faith in what Jesus has done for us. But James is coming along and showing the other side of it that, hey, that is true. I'm not at all denying that. That's true. But true faith will produce something. True faith is going to lead to something. It's going to lead to an action. It's going to lead to helping people. It's going to lead to living differently. And it's a challenge that honestly exists for us today, not just back then, but it applies right now, today. So there is a question that my friend used actually in a sermon a couple weeks ago. I'm going to use it right now, claim it as mine, but it's a powerful one. Is Jesus a label or a lifestyle? Is Jesus a label or a lifestyle? Meaning, is Jesus simply something that we put in our Instagram bio? Is it simply something that, we wear the cross necklace and we wear like a Christian shirt? Or do we actually live out the verses in our bio? Do we actually live like the cross that's on our necklace actually happened in the past and can change everything? How do we live? And that's what we're gonna look at through this series, is that let's not just talk faith, let's show faith. Let's actually have an active faith. Christianity is so much more than Wednesday nights, sitting in a circle, kumbaya. It's so much more than that. There's so much power on the other side of it. And honestly, if you're getting kind of bored with Christianity, this series is for you too. Because I remember a pastor, I think it was Chad Veach, said, hey, Christianity is not boring. It might be you. It might be you. And that challenge exists to me and exists to you guys too. So let's see what's on the other side of it. The first point from James 1, we're going to start there, is trouble leads to triumph. Trouble leads to triumph. What does that mean? It's basically saying any trouble in your life, any challenge in your life can actually lead to something beautiful. God can use any difficult situation and we can grow in it. It's the weirdest thing that God looks at tough situations and says through that, beauty can come from it. Think about the cross. That looked pretty tough. But on the other side of that was freedom for all of us who believe in it. So many stories throughout the Bible, it looks like a tough situation's happening, but then God shows up right in the middle of it. So in James 1:2-4, it says, dear brothers and sisters, when troubles of any kind come your way, consider it an opportunity for great joy. For you know that when your faith is tested, your endurance has a chance to grow. So let it grow, for when your endurance is fully developed, you will be perfect and complete, needing nothing. So James is challenging Christians. He's like, hey, any difficult situation, you should look at it with a different view than what everybody else looks at it. Meaning he's trying to get our faith active, like, hey, what's something we can do? He's like, okay, when a difficult situation comes, look at it through a different lens than you normally would. Look at it as an opportunity for joy, because on the other side of it, you grow. How many of you guys know, like, you get stronger through tough situations? I know you guys might not know, but I try to work out every once in a while. Can't go to the gym, social distancing, but I work out the house. You know what I'm saying? A couple things, push-ups, whatever the case may be. But the harder it gets, the more gains you get. You usually get a little bit stronger the harder something gets. And the same way applies to life. When stuff gets hard, it's usually when you can grow the most. And that's what God's trying to show us. That's what he's challenging us in his word to do. And please follow me. Like, I am not trying to make light of any difficult situation that's happened in your life. I know some of you guys have gone through crazy things that I haven't gone through, especially at your age. I couldn't imagine going through some of the things you've gone through. Now, I'm not trying to say it was easy. I'm not trying to say it was nothing. I'm not trying to say it doesn't matter, because it's true, it does. What I am trying to tell you though, is God will meet you in the middle of it, and he can change your life through that situation. Not just for you, not just so you can be stronger and better on the other side of it, but so that your story can inspire somebody else to be stronger on the other side of it too. Like, what would it look like if your struggle turned into your testimony? Like, it's something that you use to tell other people about how good God has been to you. Whether it's a divorced parent, whether it's something difficult happening in your family, whatever the case may be, God can use it. God can use it, I promise you. I've been through some tough stuff too. And I'm not trying to compare to anybody or anything like that, but like, my uncle randomly committed suicide when I was in college. And it was something that was crazy out of the blue for our family. And I think a year or so before that, my old cross country coach committed suicide too. And so there was a period where we're just confused. We're just looking at things like, whoa, what's happening? God, why is this happening? But through those situations, we grew stronger. My family grew stronger. Other people who knew the situation grew stronger. And I believe that the same God that was with us in that situation can be with you in yours too, if you allow him to and if you believe it. James 1:12 says, God blesses those who patiently endure testing and temptation. Afterward, they will receive the crown of life that God has promised to those who love him. Meaning, y'all, there is something beautiful on the other side if you have this outlook. If you truly trust God in the middle of your difficult situation, whatever it is, not just this season, not just the COVID-19, anything. If you patiently trust God, if you stay with him, there is something beautiful on the other side of it. There is something beautiful on the other side of it. And even if that something beautiful doesn't happen in this life, it will in the life to come. I guarantee you that. And that's a promise from God, and you can rest on it. That it's not just you're just doing this for nothing. There's something beautiful on the other side of it. The next point in James 1 is movement leads to improvement. Movement leads to improvement. Okay, this one, y'all, I'm about to, this point is something that we really need. We need this, is that movement leads to improvement. Something can happen when we actually move and we take steps. A lot of us might be stuck in the same situation we're in, but because we don't have an active faith, you shouldn't expect to go anywhere. Usually to go somewhere, you have to move. You have to take a step. You have to do something. And sometimes with our faith, we just sit back and expect things to come to us, but why don't we be aggressive and take steps to actually improve? Let's not just listen to what God's word says, be like, wow, that was good. Pastor Dan, that was nice. Yeah. Wow. Let's do something with it. Let's try to apply what God's word says. Let's try to do what he's asking us to do. Let's not just sit on the sidelines. Let's get in the game. That applies to youth when we get back on Wednesdays. That applies right now. Those actually watching the video, thank you. Seriously, that's awesome because you're doing something, you're taking it. But don't just watch the video, apply the video. Use the lessons in here and let it apply to your life, because that's where the life change happens. That's where things actually start to grow and happen. James 1, 22 through 25 says, but don't just listen to God's word. You must do what it says. Otherwise, you are only fooling yourselves. Pause. Y'all, please hear that. Please hear that. Don't just listen to God's word. You must do what it says. Otherwise, you are only fooling yourself. Like, as much as me and like your Connect group leaders desperately want you to apply God's word, you're honestly just limiting yourself. You're honestly just holding yourself back from what God's potential for you is. For if you listen to the word and don't obey it, it is like glancing at your face in a mirror. You see yourself, walk away, and forget what you look like. But if you look carefully into the perfect law that sets you free, and if you do what it says, don't forget what you have heard, then God will bless you for doing it. So James uses this like picture of like you look in a mirror, and when you look in a mirror, you see your true self, right? And he's saying when you read the word, you see your true self. Like the Bible is the only book that as you read it, it reads you. It challenges you. It makes you want to grow. It makes you want to get closer to God. It makes you want to change. It makes you want to get to what God intended for you to be. And he's saying you can look at it and you can just walk away and completely forget what you look like. And how ridiculous would that sound? If I look in a mirror and I walk away and I don't see myself, I don't remember what I look like. What's the point of looking in the mirror? Like imagine I have something in my teeth, right? I see it in the mirror and I'm just like, I'm gonna leave it. I just keep going throughout my day. Why not actually just get what's out of there? Because everybody's gonna be looking at you throughout the day and you're gonna be talking, be like, you got something, and you can't really get it out because then it's weird and awkward. You don't want to say anything to your friend because all this stuff. But he's saying no, like if we actually carefully look at it, we carefully look into the perfect law, it will set you free. God's word will help you be set free and reach all that God has for you. But you have to apply what it says. There's so much more on the other side of applying what God says. So please hear me out. Let's not just listen to it. Let's not just hear stuff like this and do nothing with it. Let's not just have faith because our parents have faith and because it's cool or because it's trendy. Let's do it because that's what God's calling us to do and seeing what's on the other side of it. God's word is so much more powerful when it's actually applied. Like you have to actually apply it. That's almost like some of you high school are going to start applying for jobs. I hope you realize the job application is not going to fill out itself. Like it's not just like you're hired. Like no, that's not going to happen. Like you have a part to play. You have to apply to it, submit it in, and then something will happen potentially. So in the same way, you can't just sit there, wow. Okay? No, you have to start trying what God is advising us to do. Whether it's in your relationships, whether it's how you treat people, whether it's your attitude, whether it's your motivations, like start applying what God's challenging us to do. And I promise you something will happen on the other side of it. James 1:26-27 says, if you claim to be religious, but don't control your tongue, you are only fooling yourself, and your religion is worthless. Pure and genuine religion in the sight of God the Father means caring for orphans and widows in their distress and refusing to let the world corrupt you. Don't just talk, guys. Please, don't just talk. Don't just talk, because God sees it. God looks at our hearts more than anything, and he sees our motivations. And what friend, what father wants their kid to just talk game and not actually do something with it? Like, it doesn't make sense. What relationship in your life goes well if you don't actually back up what you say? If you promise to be somewhere, you don't go. You promise to hang out with them, you're not there.